Macallan 18, too thin, too pricey, um, too pretentious. Don't fucking buy it. Welcome to the blind battle of the 18-year-old sherried Scotch whiskies. I'm your host Sam, and this is Whiskey and SV. Okay, so tonight's episode is going to be super fun for me. So last night I decided to crack open one of my Macallan 18s. It's been a while since I've had a Macallan 18 because the pricing on them has got wildly ridiculous. A Macallan 18 these days costs around $400 plus tax. Probably we're talking around 450-ish if you're buying it somewhere in the US. And well, I put this up against a 12-year-old yesterday, and I couldn't really tell the difference. Well, I mean, I guess you get a little bit more of complexity in this, but definitely not 4 times the price more complexity. So yeah, this one is a 2022 version, and I'm really interested to see how it stands up against these other whiskeys that are, well, most of them are less than half the price of this particular one. Up next tonight, we have the Tamdhu 18. The Tamdhu 18 is, well, in Sipper Social Club, Jeremy recently reviewed this one and said it is the potential Macallan killer. I am also pretty optimistic that it is the better version of Macallan. It's both better, I guess, specs for us whiskey nerds, right? It is 46% as opposed to the 43% Macallan. It is stated to be natural color, and it is less than half the price. In fact, by UK pricing, it's definitely in the order of like 40% of the price. Up next, we have the Bunnahabhain 18-year-old. This one, as you know, the 15-year-old did the 12-year-old, sorry, did really well in the previous blind that I did, and it is one of my favorite 18-year-old Scotch whiskies in general, and of course, when it comes to sherry, it is definitely great value for money. Last but not least, we have the Speyburn 18. The reason why I threw this one in is because I think Speyburn does not get I guess, the fanfare and the credit that it deserves because it is much cheaper than these other bottles. I believe I paid somewhere around $120 for this, and it is really high quality stuff for the price. And I just wonder how well it would do in a blind. Okay, without further ado, let me go ahead and pour these in tonight's containers. Again, unfortunately, because the coloring on these is so different, I'm having to use my black Glencairns, which I typically don't like doing because they do distort the kind of aromas for me a little bit. But it is what it is. So as usual, I'm going to pour about half an ounce in each glass. And I'm going to make sure that I don't mess up the numbers. So number one will be the Macallan 18. I'll put this to the side here. Number two, we will fill with the Tamdhu 18. Number three, we'll do the Buna 18. Last but not least, we will have the Speyburn. So the idea here is the Macallan 18 really worth the price, which I'm pretty sure is not? And then can you get the same profile in any of the other Scotch whiskies that are much less in price? And I think the Tamdhu profile is actually very close to the Macallan profile. So I think that is going to be the good alternative. However, I'm also interested to know if you don't want to even spend the $200 or so that you would have to pay for the Tamdhu. Can you spend much less, like in the order of like 150 or less, and still get a very amazing 18-year-old whiskey? So yeah, that'll be kind of like what we're trying to figure out tonight. Okay, so let's get started. As usual, I will smell and nose them first, and then at the end I will go ahead and taste and provide some tasting notes. So I'm getting like lots of prunes and raisins, and some like leathery notes. Not, I'm getting a very slight amount of orange, chocolate and orange notes in here, but not enough to think that it's Macallan. I think for me the Macallan marker is that orange or tangerine kind of jam, and maybe cooked sort of oranges with chocolate or something. Chocolate orange. That's kind of like the marker for me. Not getting a whole lot of that in here, I have to admit. So if I was to guess, I think it is a very interesting nose. If I was to guess right off the bat for this, I would say it is probably the Buna, but I'm not sure. Okay, so let's go to the second one. Much more muted nose. I'm not getting much of anything on this. I guess, yeah, I mean, it's the same typical high quality sherry casks, but just much more muted than the other one. Let me go back to the other one actually, just to be sure. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the third one. So I think what's happening right now is that I've got used to that kind of like sherry note, so it's not coming across as very strong in any of them. Yeah, I'm not like completely lost that. Yeah, it's nosing things is always very difficult because when you nose, if you're not careful and you take like big whiffs, one, if it's like a high well, if it's a very high ABV alcohol, it'll cause your nostrils to kind of like get burnt out on all smells. But then, even if it's not super high ABV stuff, which none of these are all, except for the Macallan, which is 43, I think they're all around 40, 46% ABV, right? So I I just need to be careful. I think when I nose things to just like kind of breathe through my nose and not really let it. And I shouldn't really spend too much time on a single one because now I'm having a very difficult time distinguishing these. This does feel like it's kind of a Macallan profile. Yeah, I think all these three kind of smell like they're the Macallan profile. This one looks a little bit different. All right, so let's just go with a tasting. So for the tasting, I'm gonna leave out this one, which I think is different. Actually, no. Let's just get started with this one first. Interesting. Despite the very subtle nose, this had some sharpness when it first got on my tongue. There was quite a bit of spices and some bitters from the oak, and there's maltiness. Quite a bit of those kind of like prune and a little bit of orange notes as well. So, but it's not. It didn't feel like a Macallan profile. It felt more. Um, yeah, it felt more a little bit like sharper than I would expect Macallan to be. Um, an interesting experience and a pretty nice experience. I like it quite a bit. Okay, let's go for this one. Yeah, no sharpness in this at all. Extremely smooth. Very Macallan profile. If I was to guess, I would say that is the Macallan. Um, it feels a bit too thin. And it's kind of a ridiculous thing to say because 3% ABV shouldn't make that much of a difference. But I think Macallan just generally makes their whiskeys to be smooth because they're really not for whiskey nerds anymore. They're definitely just, for casual drinkers or people who care more about the branding the, than kind of, I guess, getting an interesting experience. Having said that, I do like it a lot. I'm just salty that it costs so much, you know. And I don't even know if this is Macallan, but it certainly could be uh, passed as Macallan to me in a blind for sure. Okay, this one does not on the nose does not feel like Macallan. So let's go and see what it feels like on the palate. Palate could be Macallan. It is actually quite smooth as well. Um, no real like spiciness to it. There's a little bit of ginger spice, but not a whole lot. But there's that orange cooked oranges and tangerine jam type flavors with like chocolate. Yeah, I should say chocolate flavored orange. No, orange flavored chocolate. Um, that is kind of the marker that also appears here. So although is slightly more pronounced in this than the other one. So so far this feels the thinnest. This feels, well, the most different. Let's go for this last one. There's a very slight hint of peat in this. I wonder why I'm getting that. There shouldn't really be peat in any of these. That's very nice. That didn't feel like Macallan, but it's a very nice profile in terms of I think the flavors are bolder than you would expect, and it felt more syrupy. Okay, I'm gonna have to do another kind of like tasting all the way through, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you, well, which one I think I like the most, and which is which, at least in my mind. This one does feel like also it has some peat in it. There's a slight amount of peat in it. I like it quite a bit. I think to me, this is the most interesting actually, and I believe it's the Buna. In my mind, this has to be the Buna. Very Macallan profile. It just feels the thinnest to me. It feels like it has water added to it, and I know they all have water added to them, but um, yeah, it feels off. It feels like it doesn't have um, as much viscosity as it should. And there's for all of these, there's a fair amount of oak bitters that accompany the experience. Yeah, that doesn't feel like Macallan. If I was to guess, I would say it's the Speyburn, because to me, from what I remember at least, Tamdhu and Macallan were actually pretty close. So I'm gonna guess this is the Speyburn, which means this has to be the Tamdhu. So let's see. That's very nice. It actually kind of a little bit reminds me of it kind of a little bit reminds me of the Glentoret 12 or 15 that I really like. Mm, it's very nice. Um, I think my favorites is between this and this. I I'm going to guess that this is the Tamdhu. I hope it's the Tamdhu. I hope it's not the Macallan. This thin, watery one feels like it's probably Macallan. Although I don't know, maybe it's the Speyburn. I mean, this is my least favorite. Let's put it this way. So I would say between these two, probably one of these two is my favorite, and this one is pretty solid. This one, I like the profile, but it feels too thin. But it's the one that's probably Macallan because there's a very Macallan feel to it. Okay, so um, let's do the reveal and let's see. So the first one I said is Buna, which should be 3. That is the Buna. That is 3. Excellent. I'm surprised that I got that right. Okay, second one. Is it number 1? Is it Macallan? It is. This is the Macallan. Yeah, it just feels too thin compared to these other ones. It's too thin. It's just not worth it. This is number 4, which is a Speyburn. Yeah, so I think I got every one of these correct, which is, and this is number 2. So Um, this is the first time that I got stuff correct after like not really having tried them recently. So I'm pretty happy with that. But let's talk about main takeaways, right? So Macallan 18, too thin, too pricey, um, too pretentious. Don't fucking buy it. Which is kind of annoying for me to say because I just bought the Macallan 18, 15, and 12, the color set, just because I'm a fiend and I like collecting stuff. And I have been buying the Macallan 18 every year and mostly just sitting on shelf. I had a backup of the 2022. That's why I opened this one, and because I was figuring, okay, well, I should drink it as well. I think the last time I opened the Macallan was probably 3 or 4 years ago, before they had the big spike in prices. But they were still way too pricey even back then. It was like, I think I paid like high 200s for a bottle of Macallan 18. So at 450, yeah, there's just no way to justify this, people. Like, just no, don't buy it. The Tamdhu is what the Macallan 18 should be. It really is um, the Macallan profile, but just done at a higher ABV. It's not even that much higher ABV, but it doesn't feel thin. It's 46.8%, but it just doesn't feel thin. It feels good. This is what the Macallan 18 should have been. Mm, that is great. And of course, we got the Buna. Just such a different profile. Very, very interesting. Unfortunately, the Buna has been going up in price, but it's a very unique profile compared to those. So, I mean, you're not going to mistake it with a Macallan, I think. There is a very, very slight amount of peat in here. I think if you're super sensitive to peat, you might pick it up. I mean, officially, I think Buna is not supposed to be peated, but I do pick up this very, very slight, hint of this peaty kind of earthy, weird like funk, you know. But it's great. It's kind of like a new leather smell. I really like it. But for the price, man, this Speyburn is quite interesting. I mean, okay, it's not exactly the Macallan profile, but it is very high quality stuff. I I do prefer it over what over the Macallan. I think, especially when you factor in the price. That is a solid sherry cask whiskey. All right, folks, there you have it. I'm sorry that this is again a long episode, but I think it's interesting to do these long episodes. At least it's great for me to just like nerd out and talk about like the differences in a blind setting. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if not, please continue watching. I'm very close to being to having 500 subscribers, and if I get 500 subscribers and oh, actually no, I can turn on monetization at some point, which I think at this point I'm hoping to spend less money on whiskey and more money on more time on just kind of like reviewing everything that I have. So yeah, there's anyways, I'm ranting on and this is getting boring. So have a good night, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Take care and happy Veterans Day.